Jay Tatum, Union Pacific remains on scene here tonight, but things have gotten a little bit quieter. We've even seen trains crossing. But one thing is clear, that this tragic event for many of these investigators was something unlike they've ever seen before.
I haven't seen this, and it's pretty horrific. I mean, that's all I can say.
Federal and state agencies combed the scene where a state prison bus flew off the interstate, killing 10 people.
The bus went airborne into the concrete culvert over here on the side, and once he hit that, he struck the train.
The bus collided with a UPS mail train. Boxes exploded across the scene, leaving behind wreckage as investigators tried to pinpoint the cause of the crash.
Again, this is still under investigation. We do know at the time of the crash weather was the contributing factor at this point.
Crews pulled the bus out from the train tracks late this evening. None of the passengers, except for the driver, were wearing seat belts.
Offenders are being transported. They are handcuffed together. Right hand to left hand of the offenders sitting in the seats on the bus. No one is handcuffed to the bus itself, but right hand to left hand, they're sitting in the bus, and they are sitting behind security cages where they cannot get up towards the correctional officer who is driving the bus.
Jay, Union Pacific officials tell me they will be here throughout the night monitoring. Cleanup crews will be here tomorrow to get some of that debris out. Also, importantly, the National Transportation Safety Board will be looking more closely into the cause of this accident tomorrow.
Yellow crime scene tape still surrounds the convenience store here at the intersection of 42nd Street and Andrews Highway. You can even see some investigators walking around, still collecting some evidence. But even with that, this scene is a much calmer one than the one I saw earlier this afternoon. A call of shots fired sent emergency personnel and law enforcement from all over the county to the busy intersection of 42nd and Andrews Highway in Odessa. Eyewitnesses pulled out their cameras and started filming. In the video, you can see troopers assisting men lying on the ground. Just shortly after, information was released that 2 state troopers had been shot by a man wanted for aggravated assault out of Ward County.
Estaba esperando para dar vuelta.
Leonardo Nunez says he saw it all.
I saw when the officers got there. They were looking for someone, and then somebody said, "He's in the restroom." When the officers opened the door, the suspect started shooting, and they shot back at him.
The suspect was killed. The 2 troopers are recovering in the hospital with gunshot wounds. One was hit in the chest and leg, another hit in the arm.
We were told that he was not going to come in peace. He was going to fight his way out, and which he did.
Law enforcement say they have been searching for the suspect after receiving tips that he was in the Odessa area. That's when they saw him in the Phillips 66 convenience store. When approached, just as predicted, he didn't surrender peacefully, making it an emotional and hard day for all of those wearing a badge.
It doesn't have to be the Texas Highway Patrol badge, but even if it's another agency, those are our brothers and sisters, and we hurt.
Again, the state troopers are expected to make a full recovery. In this case will continue to be investigated. It is now being led by the Texas Rangers and the Odessa Police Department. For now, reporting live in Odessa, I'm Lauren Landman, CBS 7 News.
For 7 years, Midland firefighter Aaron Hughes served his community. Late last week, he lost his fight with cancer. Hundreds today turned out for his funeral. CBS 7's Lauren Landman was there. She joins us now with that. Lauren?
Jay, it really was amazing to see how many lives Aaron touched in just 31 years. His friends remember him as a jokester. His colleagues remember him as the strongest man they've ever met.
Aaron was he was a good guy, good man, good friend.
He is what we really look for in selecting a firefighter. He was the total package. He was a great guy.
For 7 years, Aaron Hughes spent his time working as a firefighter for his community, doing what he loved and what he was undoubtedly passionate about.
He was an outstanding role model in the fire service, and so everybody loved him. He never met a stranger.
1 year ago, the roles changed when Aaron was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma.
a form of skin cancer, and instead of fighting for his community fought for him through numerous fundraisers.
He had many friends and not a lot of enemies.
That statement couldn't be more true when looking at the mass of people who turned out to remember the man who kept everyone laughing.
I didn't tell him until a couple years later.
Even there in the hospital, he always smiled, was laughing, cutting up.
A sign to Mark Vasquez that his best friend never gave up, fought to the end, and truly loved life.
Huge family man, loved his family and his girls, and that just spilled over into his work.
This is the final alarm from engineer paramedic Aaron Scott Hughes at the Midland Fire Department for giving 7 years of dedicated service.
As everyone that we lose, it feels like you lose a piece of your heart because we truly love them.
Locked up in the Brewster County Jail, inmates won't find themselves wearing orange or the classic black and white pinstripes. Instead, they'll be clothed in all pink.
We're governed by jail standards, and one of the things that jail standards doesn't govern is the uniform color.
The decision goes back almost 10 years to when one of Sheriff Ronnie Dodson's inmates made a run for it.
As an experienced sheriff of having an escapee, which becomes quite a nightmare, I want all the advantage I can get.
Let's say there was a situation where an inmate escaped. The old black and white uniforms would actually blend into the West Texas landscape. However, wearing pink, you can't really miss it.
If someone would have seen somebody running around outside the jail at night in a nice bright pink uniform, I'm sure they would have called us. But this particular incident, they weren't able to see anybody was able to see him out there.
And for having inmates wear them for the last 6 weeks, it's been a surprisingly positive change. Sheriff Dodson says he hasn't had a single complaint about the color from the inmates.
Pink is a soothing color. And some of the guys here are actually, big guys with muscles, and they think it enhances their muscles.
So now motorists have a new color to watch out for when inmates are cleaning up trash, and that color is hot pink, one you definitely won't overlook. With your eye on Brewster County, I'm Lauren Landman, CBS 7 News.
Jay Tatum, the rising cost of electricity for Sharyland distributed customers in West Texas is not just felt by homeowners. It's also felt here in the fields of Howard County, where farmers are weighing whether to raise prices or get out of the business.
Grew up here on this farm. My grandparents had this farm, and my mom and dad, and then my husband and I, we've had it for 20 years and grown hay all during that time.
Like hay to a horse, electricity is a lifeline to the farms of West Texas.
Electricity is huge. We have to pay for electricity to water the fields.
But Nancy Rainey's way of life is threatened by a sharp rise in Sharyland distribution fees, doubling her electric bill.
They were running around $3,500 a month during the growing season, which is astronomical as it is. But since this deregulation has happened, they've gone between $5,000 a month and $6,000 a month during the growing season, and it makes it very hard.
At Elbow Creek Hay and Feed,
don't spend that all in one place, okay?
every dollar matters. Do you think that this could eventually impact prices or even put you guys out?
Yes, it could. It could very well. It makes it very hard for us to make the decision whether to spend the money on the electricity or not. Is it cheaper just to leave the fields without irrigating them and just depend on Mother Nature because you can't afford to pay for the electricity?
We took our concerns to Sharyland's Stanton office. We were sent to a corporate spokesperson. We've got people whose bills are literally doubling. Do you think these charges are fair?
Well, they were set by a part of a fair process. Rates are regulated. We can't make up the rates. They are regulated and set by a state agency as part of a rate case, and that rate case is an open and honest and transparent proceeding where all parties have an opportunity to participate.
Our emails to 2 public utility commissioners were not returned today. We've requested a sit-down interview with the commission. We also reached out to a state representative, and an attorney is reviewing Sherryland's agreement with the state. Meanwhile, West Texans plea for relief.
My message to the Public Utilities Commission in Sherryland would be to, listen to the consumer, because the consumer is, you can't keep charging these prices.
A message farmers hope will be heard before it's too late. Now, if you're impacted, we've posted details on CBS7.com on how you can file a grievance with the Public Utility Commission of Texas. We've also requested a sit-down interview with one of the 3 commissioners for Texas. In Howard County, Matt Rist, CBS 7 News.
Marfa Public Radio broadcasts to thousands of people each week, and here in the Permian Basin and across the state through their online streaming, and because of that, you would expect some interesting requests, especially late at night.
But some listeners have gotten extremely creative in the way they connect through music. That's because they're behind bars.
CBS 7's Lauren Landman visited with the radio station in Marfa and joins us now with that story.
That travel and training coming out of technology fund isn't going to work.
By day, David Beebe talks budgets and issues things like protective orders. That's because he's Presidio County's Justice of the Peace.
I need to talk to the judge about that.
It's an undoubtedly stressful job, but David's found a way to relax.
Yeah.
Late Tuesday nights, David finds himself behind a soundboard as a DJ for the Night Train Express.
This is really more just my time.
He runs one of the basin's only soul stations, reaching out to listeners from all over. But for the past few weeks, he's been getting some requests from a different kind of audience, from a place you might not expect.
Recently, there's been a bunch of guys in the Linall unit over at the prison in Fort Stockton who listen at night.
The Linall unit holds over 1,400 male prisoners, and it sits just 15 miles outside of Fort Stockton.
If they're on good behavior, they're allowed to keep a little personal radio.
One prisoner soon found out that throughout the week, when talking with his fiancée, he could create a list of song requests. And just like clockwork, she would email the request to David every Tuesday night.
And there's 16 songs, and it says, "Much appreciate the crew at the Linall unit and Deb." They listen to the show together, and then they talk about it in a couple of days. That's kind of their time. According to her, that's kind of her time together.
Their time together turned into the unit's time together. Before long, other prisoners started putting in their requests.
Yeah, the half the unit's listening to the show, and Paul's having to whittle down 40 requests to 15.
And every week he plays a few of their requests, giving the men behind bars a little shout out.
Gonna do this one going out to my buddies in the Linall unit over in Fort Stockton. Anytime somebody's listening and really enjoying it, and is really looking forward to it, that's a real victory for me.
At the end of the day, David's show gives him a chance to relax, but ultimately he gives that gift to thousands each week, while at the same time connecting his most captive audience to life on the outside. With your eye on Marfa, I'm Lauren Landman, CBS 7 News.
And out of all of the sporting events that are happening in March, whether it's basketball, baseball, softball, or soccer, I found a new love for hula hooping. For the past 20 years, Reagan Elementary in Odessa has been dominating the West Texas hula hooping scene with the one and only Star Wars battle. It was created by Michael Nyman, a former Reagan teacher who's now leading the district's PE program. Today, close to 300 students who made it to the final day of competition stepped inside of a hoop and they went to work. From kindergartners to sixth graders, the point of this competition is to be the last one hooping.
Hula hoop is a staple out here at Reagan Elementary, and we can just throw out some hula hoops and they get started and they're working on their fitness and having fun with it. It's a good lesson. They're learning to compete and have fun at the same time and learn how to compete in an appropriate manner.
It teaches the kids a lot of teamwork. It teaches them to problem solve and strategize while they're going, choosing the opponent that they want to go for.
it's whenever you know you're gonna have to get him out no matter what, but still, like, at the end of the day, you're still all friends.
Star Wars is not only about today's athletes, it's also about tradition. There is even an alumni battle game for former Reagan students, an event Erin Vore says she traveled 17 hours from Utah to make.
I drove in last night and I got in at midnight. I was gonna do the drive in 2 days, but I wanted to make it back for Star Wars, so.
And as for today's winners, second grader Landry Ward is walking away with bragging rights bigger than her.
What are you going to do with this trophy?
I don't know.